Oh, it's me again. Yes. Actually, the story for this starts almost exactly 1 year ago when I was, well, I'm not sure how much of this I want to go into because, anyway, never mind.
I'll get the hook out.
Yeah, you'll get the hook out. Anyway, I happened to be looking through a Sky and Telescope magazine and noticed a little ad for observing the Venus transit from Hawaii and happened to notice and said, gee, that would be kind of too bad. That would be kind of fun. And whereupon my wife looked at it and said, Tim, you have to go. God, I'm a lucky guy. God love her. Anyway, so I did. And now this is kind of interesting because I found this an interesting adventure because I haven't been on an airplane since 1989. And it's gotten nastier to travel since then. If nothing else, they make you take your suspenders off. And I was thinking I was going to give everybody a floor show. Yes, walk through the scanner with your hands up. Not a chance, pal. Anyway. Yeah, quite. I mean, I have no modesty, but I also don't want to be arrested for indecency, particularly down south. Anyway, so what we have here is a little photograph of Venus right after second contact, and a palm tree out from my hotel window. So there you go, on the morning of the transit. 15 hours of trip, I ended up in Honolulu. And that turned out to be a very good thing because I was absolutely fried when I got there. That's when I also discovered that cars have changed in many years, and they're all electric. My car keys actually have little metal things. It's a little metal thing with ridges on it, and there's no little thing to go click. So I had to go back to the car rental agency and say, "Excuse me, how do I open the trunk?" And this woman sort of looks at me and says, "You use the blue button, honey." Oh, crap, I'll go hide somewhere later. Anyway, over here you can see me looking pensively into the sky from my Waikiki hotel. And no, I did not bother going to Waikiki Beach because I hate beaches. Brian McCullough was insisting I had to go dabble my toes in the beach. And I said, no chance, I'm not going to let anything get a chance to eat my toes. But anyway, it was actually kind of a cool little place. And, of course, one has to have a cheeseburger in paradise, because that's the name of the place, the Waikiki Cheeseburger in Paradise, and yeah, it did get sued by Jimmy Buffett. I made a point of pointing out to my wife that there was nobody else in the hotel room. What I had was one of these really marvelous little gadgets that lets you take pictures of yourself. So, yeah, this one, searching for smile. I'll fire you. It's blinking. There. Searching for smile. So I made sure I demonstrated this when I got back home. It looks like I'm looking longingly into the dark. In fact, I'm thinking, when the hell does that damn coffee shop open? Anyway. It's cool because, you read about this stuff and you know it's going to be there. Down in the tropics, it's an instant sunset and an instant sunrise. But, man, to see it is another thing. You're just driving and then all of a sudden somebody turned the dark on. It's really bizarre. And then the same thing in the morning. You're sitting down there waiting for that damn coffee shop to open. And it's outside. Everything out down there is outside, including the outside. Anyway, never mind. So anyway, nice little view from over the city. And it's kind of a cool place. I'm not really into cities, but it's a cool place. Since I was down there, I happen to be a military history nut, and particularly in the Pacific theater of World War II, and specifically submarines. So a trip out to Pearl Harbor was an interesting sideline. And if you ever get a chance to visit there, the Pearl Harbor museums are really cool and incredibly cheap. $10 to wander around through there. I spent 2 hours poking around through holes, taking pictures of gauges and all that good stuff, and discovered that I was not alone. Too many crowds. I didn't bother going over to the other bits of the island. I had enough of being crowded. So, nice little interlude before heading off to the Big Island. And when you arrive there, there's a view of your view right when you get off the plane. It's a view only Tony or Simon could like. Because that's what it is. It's black 100-year-old lava. And the tower is basically sticking out of black 100-year-old lava. It looks like something out of a moon landing. Driving from the airport, and that's what you're driving through. black lava with little bits of grass, and the cutest graffiti in creation. They do the graffiti with little bits of white coral, and there's not a nasty word there. It's all beautiful, nice stuff, you know, Tom loves Julie, and the weirdest one was I heart hockey, which in Hawaii seemed very odd, but at any rate. And then you've got in the background some hills. It's a cool place out there. It's all made out of 5 volcanoes, 2 of which are active. So it's an intriguing place. Transit day -1. We got our little briefing on what stuff was set up by Sky and Telescope and such like, and the weather forecast for the next day. And yeah, I made a point of telling my wife I got that picture with this too. So yeah.
You really believe that, eh?
Actually, she did, but that's usually because she knows that she's the only one with bad enough taste in men to marry me. But at any rate, yeah, I digress. The day before, we were all getting a little bit disappointed because the forecast for the next day absolutely stank. In fact, there was a forecast of a snowstorm on Mauna Kea. And if not a snowstorm, freezing rain on Mauna Kea. Fortunately, the storm went north of the island, but we had a whole lot of people there outside front checking out equipment, not looking at the sky. Yeah. But fortunately, every time we saw a patch of blue, we studiously ignored it and therefore made the sun come back. And then finally, it's the next day. Mauna Kea, we did the first bits of the observation from the Visitor Information Station. That's at 2,400 meters. And the place is an absolute zoo. In fact, the rangers had closed the access road to the mountain. If you didn't belong there by virtue of working there or had already booked a spot to come in, you couldn't get up there. The only exception they made was every car that left, another car could come up. And nobody left. So, you know, but they did set up other satellite observing areas all over the island. So it did kind of work out. Right up there is actually the local quarters for astronomers and summit workers, where you'll stay up here and acclimatize. This is only part of the crowd. It got busier and busier and busier as the day wore on, and it's an interesting crew. Yeah, big geeky grin. We finished we finished the ingress. I watched second contact and first contact under absolutely spectacularly beautiful conditions. The best seeing I have ever seen in my life. Even with 50-mile-an-hour winds, it was still fantastic seeing. And of course, after that bit, then you can walk around and take a look. Now, I did all retinal imaging down there. I looked at it. Yeah, never mind, bad joke, forget it. But I just took a couple of keepsake pictures. After that, they shuttled us all up. There was shuttles going back and forth to the summit all day on transit day, and I took one of the shuttles up to the top, and very few people had set up because the winds up there were insane, 60-mile-an-hour winds. But a few people had promised to go up and do video feeds, so they're up there freezing their tails off. Just about 0 degrees with a 50-mile-an-hour wind. That is flippin' cold. And the air's a little thin up there, which makes it a little tougher to handle. Yeah, it's a little rough. The crew I was with, they gave us little cans of recreational oxygen. It's a little can that looks like a spray can that you use to spray on your grill for barbecuing. And the only difference I could see is it said on the side, "Not for therapeutic use." This made it recreational. It seems to be inhaled Red Bull. But it was a nice little security blanket to have, because on the bus I went up with, 3 people collapsed on the summit. So, I mean, it does happen up there. You're just under 14,000 feet, and it's 60% of the oxygen, and it is tough. You step out of the van, and it's sort of, holy crap, I've just worked hard. Now I'll take another step. Sure, this should be good. Anyway, it didn't feel too bad, but down there, keep track of the transit with video imagery and solar funnels all over the place. So even while you're out poking around and looking at astronomical heaven, oh yeah. I mean, if this isn't the mecca for astronomy, what is, right? Right up here on the top, you've got the NASA Infrared Telescope Facility, the Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope with its broken shutter. This broke actually back in April, and they just barely were getting it fixed by then. Gemini North, the light switch here is actually the University of Hawaii 2.2 meter. And the probably not long for this world infrared, UK infrared telescope, and down here the little educational telescope for University of Hawaii. That's right up on the top hill. And you can see down here where the storm has passed the island because all the cloud deck was rising busily towards the summit. Little view of Keck from there, and this young lady scurried out of her bus, came out, grabbed 2 pictures, said something loud and frightened in Japanese, and ran back to her bus. So I put this up on my website entitled Burr, which was a pretty good description of it. Over here we've got the Keck 1 Observatory, and this sucker is huge. The visitor center's there, and it's a pretty underwhelming visitor center. You have a little place where you can get some brochures, and then there's this little tiny plexiglass window that looks into the telescope, and the plexiglass window is filthy, so your opportunity of getting a good photograph is somewhere between 0 and none. But it's a visitor center. Yeah. Those solar funnels, I don't know how many of you guys had a chance to try these, but these are really cool. The imagery isn't very good, but it's nice, and you get to show it to a whole bunch of people, so I'm planning on using this for solar outreach later on. These folks were just huddling behind anything they could get for shelter. Yeah, there you go. There's Venus. So this was fun because you could walk around and check stuff out and then come back and just take another peek at how the transit was going. So this is really cool. You can observe the transit and look at everything else while you're at it. A few more bits, and over here is an intriguing sign. That's how it reads. Notice the drive with care. It reads, it's misspelled. This does not inspire confidence. I watched people out there painting the signs by hand, interestingly enough. So I'm assuming that somebody was up there with what actually on the summit, the guys working on the summit called it the stupids too. I mean, your brain just dies up there. It really does. I got a camera strap filed around my neck and I was just, this shouldn't be hard. This really should not be hard. Tab A, slot B. This is like an educational toy. And I don't even have kids. It's just incredible. So cut the poor guy some slack. And there, take a look at this, just the cloud deck just rising towards the summit. This is a pretty unbelievable shot. Mauna Loa is right over there, so you're looking at the other monster volcano on the island. Just slightly below the height of Mauna Kea. You're right stuck between the middle of the 2 biggest ones. And down here, Submillimeter Valley. All the submillimeter telescopes are down here. This one here is the James Clerk Maxwell telescope. Oh, stop it. Behave. Thank you. In which Canada has an interest, and since the UK has pulled out, this one may not be long for the Earth either. UK has pulled out funding, and so has the Netherlands. So this is in dire straits. If the funding lapses, the University of Hawaii gets first crack at taking it. If they don't want it, it has to be removed and returned to its original state. Yeah, not good. This makes lovely sense because it costs practically nothing to mothball it, but anyway, never mind. Down here, the submillimeter array, which is a really cool telescope. Now, we weren't sure what was going to happen for the egress phases. The cloud deck was rising. We were originally planning to observe from the summit, but at 60 miles an hour, there's just no way you're going to set telescopes up. We were going to observe from the visitor's station, but the clouds were rising. So the organizers ran around madly and found an alternate location, which turned out to be the beach behind the hotel. And so we sucked it up manfully and, left a bitterly cold mountain for a tropical beach. We gave our all for science and endured the terrible hardship and raced back down. Now, this is odd because I discovered everything on Hawaii is open air. So the front of the hotel was open and the back of the hotel was open, and you went that way to get to the beach. So you've got a whole horde of people leaping off a bus with about 20 minutes before egress, all wearing stuff from the mountain, which was about 0 degrees, racing like a herd of elephants racing through this nice hotel carrying telescopes and stuff. And God help anybody who was in the way because some guys are ripping off sweaters and jackets because it's already way too hot, pulling out telescope gear while they're racing through the hotel. And, oh man, that must have been quite the sight. We finally got down and got set up. And while we're sitting there waiting for third contact, we're hearing a "Sky and telescope, people." move over to the next location. And of course, we're sitting here waiting for third contact, and the general reaction was, get stuffed, we ain't moving. We discovered afterwards why they wanted us to move, because we all set up over the sprinkler area. Yeah, fortunately the sprinklers didn't get on, but apparently I was told that they actually scurried to find the valves to turn it off. So that's why they wanted us to move, and of course we said, to hell with you guys, we're looking at astronomical stuff, go away. So I got a few keepsake shots. I just put a crude solar filter over my camera, just some keepsake shots just for myself, because I knew guys like Rolf would get good ones that I could then steal shamelessly from the Ottawa Centre website. However, Rolf, I will ask permission before I steal it shamelessly. But this is kind of cool, being able to see the whole thing. And the ingress and egress phases were absolutely beautiful. Down at the beach, the conditions were, the seeing conditions were awful. But I mean, who cared? After seeing part of this, being able to see the end of it was just monumental gravy. One of the fun parts is I was working in white light. All the guys working with hydrogen alpha saw first contact about 30 seconds to a minute before the white light guys did, because you could see Venus entering the chromosphere. And we had to wait, us white light guys had to wait for the photosphere, so we got advance warning. And that was really cool, because you knew when it was going to happen, and you were primed to catch second contact before it happened, so you could catch it just at the first hint of seeing it. I mean, it was a real advantage. And of course, they got back at us because they got an extra 30 seconds to a minute of transit afterwards. So all of us are saying, fourth contact, that's it, it's over. 30 seconds later, you hear all the hydrogen alpha guys saying rather snottily, fourth contact. Yeah, go away. Shut up. Go away, kid, you butter. You're close to the beach. Somebody might do something to your expensive. I couldn't believe it, man. I was the poor kid there. Definitely poor kid. I mean, the people I was traveling with were incredible. Some of them had just come from watching the annular eclipse. A few more were heading off to, one guy was heading off to Guadalcanal for a battlefield simulation or something like that. I had Skywatcher telescopes next to me, and another guy with probably $89,000 worth of camera. And so, what do you have there? I have my $300 AT-66 telescope. Oh, and I have my $70 camera on a little thing that lets me take my own picture. Oh, I'll go leave now. Yeah. Crap. Yeah, that says it. So I stuck around for a few more days, and one of the things I'd done is pulled every string I could get to see some cool stuff while I was there. But one of the things, if you ever get a chance to go, sign up for one of the commercial summit trips, because they're really nice. They're not terribly expensive. Somebody drives, you get the look. And the group I was with, I was the only guy that was there by myself. My wife didn't go with me because she can't travel. She's too claustrophobic for planes. So because I was the only single guy there, sort of, they put me in the front seat of the van. I went, manfully and put up with the best seat in the entire friggin' van. Anyway, never mind, sorry. I gloat. But, you'll get up, they'll take you up, you'll have dinner, and then you head up to the summit. Somebody else does the driving. You get some nice stargazing at the end, so, it's definitely worth the trouble. This is just a little bit up from the mid-height stations. This is about, oh, stop that. Behave. Behave. Do what I wanted, not what I told you, you stupid thing. Yes, anyway, I'm a guy. So you're looking down onto the access road. This little thing down here, actually, this is a really intriguing little thing. I wish I had a chance to explore it. This thing is called Pu'uhuluhulu. Aren't you thrilled? I practiced. It means hairy hill, and what this is it's a little tiny cinder cone that's been surrounded by a lava moat. So the only thing that's here is indigenous Hawaiian vegetation. None of the invasive stuff has come in, so it's a really cool little area. You can get a nice little close-up view. Down here you've got the visitor station, which is basically an overpriced gift shop, but they do run free stargazing most evenings. And down here the old construction camp for building the first summit observatories. Most people miss the radio telescopes on Mauna Kea. So this one is just hiding at about 12,000 feet, a 25-meter very long baseline array. This stuff, the guy that led us up here, he was actually a guide for Canada-France Hawaii Telescope, remote observer actually. This stuff is cinder cone, and this is volcanic cinder. The stuff is all sharp as a bloody rock. It's very hard, but the crazy thing is the whole area is spongy. It's like walking on sand. And at 12,000 feet, it tires you out in just steps. One of the guys on this particular trip was a group of French astronomers who'd gone to Haleakala to observe the transit and did everything with sketches. And I've been waiting to see the sketches on their website. He fell on this stuff and cut the heck out of his hands. This is nasty, nasty stuff. I assume it's down at the 12,000 foot level because it's radio quiet, but you don't see this from the main road. Another view into Submillimeter Valley, which is what they call it locally. Up here was where they put the first observatory on Mauna Kea to test it and see whether this would be good for observing. So right down here you've got the Caltech Submillimeter Telescope, the James Clerk Maxwell, and the array here. The array is quite cool. It's a whole bunch of 6-meter antennas with a whole pile of pads, and these are basically like phone jacks. This little gadget here picks up an antenna, drops it down on the phone jack, and it's just plug and play. They can completely reconfigure this array in a couple of hours. The ropes up here are for good reason. These suckers move under computer control, and it is dangerous in here. I watched some of these things move, and they're moving without warning, and you do not want to be around when those things move, so you definitely don't want to go in. They're just opening up all the observatories just before sunset. So down here you have Keck 1 and Keck 2 just opening wide and saying, oh, stop that, behave. Right down here, actually, you've got the island of Maui peeking up through the clouds. There's Haleakala right up there.
Sure those aren't webcams on your laptop?
Yes, they are, as a matter of fact. And they took pictures of you sunbathing. Down here, we've got Gemini North, Canadian Presence, and the Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope. And I happen to think these are two of the most beautiful observatories on the planet, but I could be a little biased. Oh, stop this. My buttons are bouncing. On the 7th, I had an incredible opportunity. Actually, when I was going up on my commercial tour, my telephone rang, and it was, oh, hi, I'm David Woodward. I'm a remote observer at Canada-France-Hawaii. You want to join me at 4 tomorrow for a tour? Nah, I don't think I'll bother. I'm going to go sunbathe. Yeah, right. Sure, I was there. And shortly after that, it's, oh, hi, I'm with the Gemini North Observatory, so we've got your tour scheduled for Friday. Are you okay with that? Yeah. So everything, all the contingencies I came up with came true. The Canada-France-Hawaii Telescope Tour was just incredible. This guy was a remote observer there. He used to be a telescope operator. He'd been on the mountain for over 20 years with different observatories. So up from the catwalk is a really gorgeous place to observe sunset because you can immediately go from seeing the shadow of the mountain projected onto the cloud deck to just move a few feet down the catwalk and get this absolutely spectacular sunset, looking down onto what's known as 10-meter ridge, where the 10-meter telescopes and then the little dinky 8-meter telescope here and the dinkier 3.7-meter telescope. Yeah, right, dinky. So this is an incredible thing. The winds up here are unbelievable. Even with low winds on the surface, the winds up on the catwalk are always strong. Stop that. These in-camera panorama things are just absolutely fantastic. So you can get a really gorgeous sunset. These things here, this was really cool because we were watching them do their checkouts from the Canada-France-Hawaii telescope. These shutters move so rapidly that you just turn away and blink, and they've changed position. The dome here moves faster than the dome we have outside. And if you take a peek in here, you've got a little view of the 10-meter telescope inside. The actual summit of the mountain is right down here. And if you look really carefully, there's a couple of people who are just flaked out here. They'd started climbing just as we went in, and it took them about 20 minutes to climb to the top of that. It's only about 100 feet, but it's that horrible spongy stuff, and in fact you're asked to not climb up there because there's a shrine on the top, and there's been a lot of friction with old Hawaiian folks who really don't want the 30-meter telescope to go in, so they're on their best behavior now trying to smooth relations over. Apparently the word from the governor of Hawaii is, to heck with them, we're building it anyway because we need the money, but the guys who run Mauna Kea like to be a little more diplomatic. Yeah, there was somebody in my commercial group who obliged me with a picture of me looking like a complete and absolute and incredibly satisfied geek, which was a pretty fair representation. That is actually my opera glasses. Yeah, all right, fine, it's terrible. The Gemini North. This whole section rotates. You can actually move it with one hand. No, they didn't let me try. I wanted to, but they said no, slapped my wrist and moved me off. And this tiny little deceptive thing up here is actually a meter across. So this is a pretty incredible device. Canada, France, Hawaii right next door. I mean, this is only 3.6 meters, but this is an enormous telescope, and I happen to think it's absolutely gorgeous. It's sort of like a little miniature but much prettier Hale telescope. It's an equatorial, so there's the polar axis drive right there, and all the, oh, come on, what am I doing wrong here? This is only my own, stop this. And a whole set of very quick change instruments in the bottom. And up here, what used to be the largest CD imager on the planet, it's now been superseded. But this is how the Canada, France, Hawaii telescope keeps punching above its weight. These guys do some incredibly innovative imaging stuff. And they tend to test out stuff far before all the other guys in the mountain do. So after this, well, you've got an active volcano on the island. Several of them, but one of them's really active. So I decided, let's take a tour from a helicopter with the doors off. And I put a little GoPro thingy on my head so I could photograph the whole thing. Buying this was fun because I went in and bought it, and the clerk was sort of looking at me oddly and said, yes, I know, I don't look like a guy who'd use a sports camera. But they took my money anyway. But this was a cool way to observe the trip up to Mauna Kea and this trip through the helicopter. That, by the way, he's not being rude. That's actually a shaka, which you do like this, and it's supposed to mean goodwill. And I didn't want to try it in case this was something to rook in visitors. You know, you do this to the big guy who says, what? You said that to me, and, you know, promptly pounds. So, but actually, it turned out that this guy wasn't. I mean, he must not have been, because I'd just given him a $20 tip. So maybe I was supposed to give him a $40 tip. I don't know. Couldn't figure it out. But looking down on Kilauea is really, really cool. And with the door off the helicopter, well, I said feel the heat back here. They billed it as feel the heat. I thought this was advertising garbage. It isn't. You go from 16 degrees, the first time it was cool, other than on Mauna Kea the whole week. And over this, it feels like you're in front of the fireplace. Literally. It's just as warm as being in front of a fireplace. You can actually feel yourself start to sweat. I kind of wanted marshmallows. Down here, unfortunately, I couldn't get a video of this. The GoPro lens is too wide angle, and my little handheld camera was just shaking too much. But you can watch the lava flowing from one side to the other about as fast as a river. Every little bit you're seeing smoke down here is more lava. This whole surface is about 1,500 degrees, 1,000 to 1,500 degrees. And then I drove down to the volcano observatory to get a peek of this from the ground. So this is an incredibly cool place to look at if you ever get a chance to do it. The open door tour is just absolutely fantastic, and it's not even very expensive. Well, it is, but the whole damn trip's expensive, so who cares? Yeah, there you go. There's the lava. And there wasn't even, this was a small amount of lava. Earlier that year, this whole area was open with lava. This is all about a month old. All that land's about a month old, which is, I find, really cool to contemplate. So there you go, folks. My opportunity to go down and observe a transit, which was absolutely fantastic. Check out some of Canada's astronomical stuff, which is even more fantastic. And do some fun stuff and not even get very sick. Of course, I'll be paying for it until the next transit, but that's another problem. Cheese!